soup? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today. With me I have some more RPG horror stories. I've been seeing the comments, and I know you guys been missing Mary. I've been missing Mary too. I asked Mary if she would like to join in for some stuff, and maybe sometime this week we're gonna try to see what we can do. Not sure how well it's gonna work out, as I got a bunch of D&D sessions to run, and I'm gonna be hella busy this week, but we're gonna try to make something work out and get Mary and Micah back onto the show at some point. For now though, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. Player started crying and refused to play because she got knocked out. I used to only play with a group of 4 other friends, but we haven't played in 2 months now because of other priorities. One of my friends invited me to another game, which he wanted to start with his girlfriend and her friend group. In this game, one of the players, June, kept taunting a guard. We ended up battling a group of guards, and the guard she had been mocking earlier kept targeting her, ended up knocking her out. She got really upset out of character and refused to play any longer. We healed her character, but she just folded her arms and refused to speak, saying the DM had been unfair. The game had to end because she left in tears. I do feel bad for her. It must be awkward, but I miss playing with my old group. Are you playing the game with a bunch of kids or something? Because this sounds like a very, well, you know, I was about to say that I can't imagine a grown woman reacting such a way, but after reading a bunch of these RPG horror stories, I take it back. I can definitely imagine a grown woman doing something like this, or grown man. Really, just adult children exist in general, and it's kind of embarrassing watching them crash out in such a way. God, I hate the word crash out, but it just became part of my lingo. Sorry, I'm part of the problem now. But having somebody do a meltdown just because a guard that they were taunting decided to strike him down and knock the character out, and suddenly it's like, boo-hoo, I'm not gonna play my character anymore because this guard that I kept taunting and stuff decided to attack me whenever we were fighting the guards, and he got knocked out. So, play stupid games, win stupid prizes sort of thing. If I, as Morrow, go start taunting a particular enemy over and over and over again to the point where that character probably makes sense to them, have a vendetta against me, and they get a clap back against me, I can't exactly say it wasn't my responsibility. Like, I did it. I caused a sort of situation, and she probably caused the situation herself because she's constantly prodding the bear, basically. Don't poke the bear unless you want the bear to be angry. Don't mess with the bee's nest unless you want the bees against you. You know, we got a bunch of metaphors for that sort of thing. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Taunt a guard continuously. Don't be surprised if the guard decides to get a clap back on you. But to have such a reaction of, like, you know, it reminds me of a character in one of the VR chat roleplays. It was one of the fantasy VR chat roleplays where I played as Rin, the wood elf. There was a girl that specifically had it out against the guards of the city that we're in. It's part of VR chat roleplay, more basically like D&D, but more for roleplay than it is anything else. And she particularly constantly gave crap to the guards there all the time. Try to mock them, try to goad them, try to do whatever. And at some point, when the guards decided to respond by having the character be knocked down and put down on the ground in the mud, suddenly she just didn't want to roleplay anymore. She was mad and pissed. It was everyone's problem, went out of character, and just basically had a big hissy fit basically in a Discord about it in front of basically everybody. It was a reaction, definitely, but it also didn't make sense to me. It's like, if you're gonna pick a fight with somebody and they decide to fight you back, then what do you think was gonna happen? They're just gonna ignore you the whole time? What, are they supposed to just have no object permanence whatsoever? Just let you get away with things? Anyway, adults act like children are acting like children, I suppose. Let's get to the next story for today. Actually, I'll be playing your character, so this is gonna be a long one. Buckle up. Critical event actually happened a couple of years ago, but I was just told some information that recontextualized it from awkward and unfortunate to full-blown horror. But for context, we should go even further back in time. In my 20s, I was an apprentice in London, and I made friends who were just as geeky and cash-strapped as I, who all played D&D together. There were 6 of us in all. Our DM, Elf Druid, not DM's wife, Human Paladin, Halfling Rogue, Gnomish Wizard, and myself, playing my half-elf bard, Alfie. We were all young and fairly inexperienced in D&D, so these characters were not groundbreaking or overly experimental. Condensed background for Alfie, as it will be important later. Half-elves are welcome pretty much anywhere. Sadly, she was from one of the few places that necessitated the caveats. Her parents were big fish in small pond of elven village politics, moved to a big city, and, as you do when you're trying to make your way in corrupt politics, attended few, orgies, okay. Wow, what a twist. That's part of your character's story. Oh, and your DM okayed it. Okay, I guess. They didn't believe it was possible for an abomination to be conceived when they were such perfect beings, and only realized the truth when Alfie popped out with stubby ears and fell asleep in their arms. She was subject to neglect and a great deal of religious trauma, as the elves of her village continuously told her that whatever passed for her soul would be obliterated at the moment of her death. and that she was cursed, unnatural being. She fled home and met a bardic mentor, who unfortunately turned out to have a deal with the devil to sacrifice the soul of young bards to steal their talent. Alfie killed her mentor, getting a fetching depigmentation scar around one eye for her trouble, and was left to bleed to death when she refused to deal with the devil. Luckily, she was saved by some sword dancers of Elistray, who nursed her back to health, taught her the ways of radical kindness and how to make excellent soup. She follows no gods, but aids followers of Elistray, and remained best friends with one of the younger dancers until the character was murdered. She's kind, sarcastic, and has little respect for authority or hierarchy. This is a lot of... Okay, so there's nothing wrong about letting lore about your character go off and stuff, but this is a lot of lore. Is this going to matter? Can we get like a bulletin points next time? I feel like maybe some bulletin points of the most important parts need to be there. Flavor's flavor, and flavor's cool and all if you're writing a cool backstory and stuff, but for an RPG horror story, I kind of feel like we need to get to the most important bits, like, okay, part of an orgy, born a half-elf, was almost murdered by their bard mentor, bled out but saved by followers of Elistray, best friend Elistray, and then go from there. Everything else I feel like is kind of fluff, you know? Which, I mean, fluff is great for like a D&D character, but for an RPG horror story feels a little unnecessary. Or maybe I'm just not seeing the big picture and this is extremely important. Let's see. We played them for 4 years pretty consistently, and they grew with us as we got better at the game. They became fully rounded characters throughout adventures, in jokes, and shared trauma. They had relationships with the DM's favorite NPCs, and went from silly surface level gaming to deep role playing and some heavy heartfelt story moments. Paladin regaining his lost oath, my bard witnessing her best friend's death, Rogue sacrificing their arm after failing to disarm a trap and continuing as maimed for the roleplay possibility rather than fixing it. We play other characters of course, and DM got time off to play, but our original crew are still very close to our hearts. Eventually, we all gathered to different cities for work and life stuff, but if a few of us ever wanted a quick one-shot when we got back together, we could dust out the old character sheets and dive in as if no time had passed, like picking up a conversation you had with friends years ago without missing a beat. Even when we all playing completely different people, DM will drop in mention of Valiant Paladin, spells created by the wizard as part of the homebrew, and everyone knows the druid who dwells in a nearby forest is as beautiful as the goddess. He mentions that a lot to make his wife giggle. That's sickeningly cute. In short, the OG crew was a feature in our game universe, even though we didn't play them as much. Now back to the main incident of the table. A couple of years ago, most of us were all back in London at the same time, so we met up for dinner. We got to talking about Baldur's Gate 3, and I mentioned that I played Alfie as my first Tav. Turns out Paladin and Rogue had done the same thing. We got to talking about the old campaign, and DM made a suggestion. Why don't we have another game with the original crew? And 20 years later, we're putting a team together story. DM had been wanting to do a level 20 campaign for years, but most never got that high in terms of level, but our OG team could do it. We need to do some tweaking as we start out 3rd edition, and DM was mostly using updated systems in a game shop he now plays at, but it was going to be the ultimate nostalgia fest for 6 very geeky people. We didn't all live in the same city, but we were all pretty much in the same time zone. Those with kids had some more free time as they're now old enough to be self-sufficient, and COVID had owned our remote gaming skills. We messaged Wizard, the only one who wasn't with us at dinner, and she was all for it. Time for adventure. We didn't have a session 0, but we had a shared Google Doc to agree on which of the part stories were canon. Some one-shots got weird, and DM had separate docs for each one of us to build up to level 20 and add in any character development he needed to know. Rogue multiclass as a rogue artificer to get badass new hand. Paladin had a husband and kids and was dealing with aging as a human. Alfie took a single level of sorcerer since DM and I didn't see a huge point in superior inspiration, and more cantrips is always a good thing. Main point is, we all had in-depth conversations with DM, and he tailored the game to suit. So, first night of the new campaign comes around. It began with Druid, now an Archdruid, discovering animals fleeing the heart of the forest. Some darkness had sprouted from beneath the earth, and everything caught in, it didn't die, but was rendered paralyzed and screaming in agony. Druid made her way to the edge of the calamity, and the cacophony was deafening. She plucked one flower right from the edge and rushed away. The flower was still screaming as it died, but Druid managed to make out something that chilled her to the bone. Whenever it was in darkness, was screaming the same thing over and over again. It was screaming our names. With that intro, we went around to bring people up to speed on what our characters were doing. Paladin described how he and his husband were expecting the first grandchild. Rogue detailed how Thieves Guild was in turf war with a rival guild set up with some high noble pricks, and I was about to explain Alfie's status as rockstar and note a problem for slavers and other evil bastards when Wizard speaks up. Actually, I'll be playing Alfie. Cue moment of blanking comprehension from the rest of us. No, I'll still be sticking with Alfie, thanks. No, I'll be playing Alfie just as long as you. So I like to do this to give her some closure. They've been playing as... wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Wait a minute. Did the wizard take your character and started playing your character in a different campaign? Did they just yoink your characters like, yo, mine now, I'm gonna play this character in a different campaign? Is that what happened? I'm kind of curious now. Everyone again was kind of stunned. She never played Alfie. She went out to explain that she'd been playing Alfie when she wasn't playing with us, and that she had thought of much more interesting character growth for her, that she had given up traveling and music, had gotten married, and had several children. Bro, that just sounds like you took someone's character, made your own fan fiction and stuff, and you just want to play as that character. You could just make a, you know, a new character, or your previous wizard character, or anything about this. This sounds like you just want to be like, no, your canon story? No, my fan fiction is better. That's what it sounds like. Paladin spoke up, saying that if he came across someone like that using Alfie's name, he would see it as a falsehood and challenge him to reveal the truth. Rogue said something similar, but trying to be helpful, attempted to yes and this weird situation. Maybe it's someone using a seeming spell, or a shapeshifter using Alfie's name to protect their real identity. Then we can have a new character. I was still weirded out, but hey, we've gone on to have Tiefling, Furbolg, and Tabaxi characters and some more exotic stuff. If Wizard didn't want to do the very basic setup, fair enough. DM wasn't happy though. Both of them had discussed levels and story for Wizard only. What was this coming from? Wizard again said that she was playing Alfie, as I had done nothing to give her a real arc or anything interesting. She's still just a bard. Regardless of how somebody is role-playing their character, it is their character. Just because you don't like the arc doesn't mean the player themselves that's playing the character doesn't enjoy the arc as well. Maybe they like their character as they are. Maybe they like with the specific arc they're going. Everybody has their own specific arcs, and players are going to enjoy specific things. Some players want to be heroic heroes. Some just want to be just chill, chaotic little gremlins. And some literally just want to play the character as they feel the character should be, more grounded, and maybe without extreme excitement of like having a family. Like, yeah, some people could probably just pluck a Morrow and write some cool little plot points, a little bit extra and zany and stuff, but that's gonna be their fan fiction of it. I made Morrow, and I can decide if I want Morrow to have exciting or not exciting story arc. Hell, if I want my whole story arc just to be a gambler running around casinos and just making the most amount of money, I can do just that. It's my character. I can do whatever I want. And your wizard player trying to basically say they'll be playing Alfie on the side, yeah, cool, that's your fan fiction and whatever. But the player that made Alfie is there. Let them play as Alfie. You don't get to claim them as the... you don't get to claim your facsimile, I guess that's a good word for it, as the true Alfie. I don't know, man. This feels like a really weird argument, and I don't know why Wizard just can't get off this wild ride. They really just... this is the hill they want to die on for some reason. I don't know why. Actually, I know why. The simpler explanation is they feel like they can play your character better. But like, who cares? The player's there. Let them play their character, man. You'll get your turn with Alfie next. Don't worry. You get your other games to play in and stuff. To be fair, Wizard had missed out on most of our one-shots and short campaigns as she moved halfway around the world, but the rest of us knew Alfie had gone through several arcs and had grown. I replied that I wanted to play her, and that invented her, so that was it. Paladin also said he didn't want another torn from my family arc completing with a mission, and Druid said she'd be looking forward to playing with OG Alfie. Wizard was going visibly red even on camera. DM, not liking the tension, took Wizard to a breakout room to try and sort it out. I won't lie, I felt hurt as well as confused. We waited 30 minutes until DM reappeared. Only DM. He explained Wizard would not be playing with us that night, and that we should just carry on for now. It was a tad awkward at first, but DM is great and we got into the swing of the story eventually, leaving off just before we were going to find Wizard and tackle the darkness as a team. 2 weeks go by. We have the next session. Wizard was not present, and in story when we got to the point where we were meant to meet up, we just found out she was dead. Not just dead. Basically, it was a recreation of the head in the fridge scene from It. But DM was making it clear the wizard had been killed by the enemy, and it was a cowardly, ignoble permadeath. This was genuinely shocking, as DM is a sweetie and this was soaked with in-game and real-life vitriol. Drew just asked us to carry on, and if we wanted more of an explanation, we could get it after the campaign was done. DM was too upset to talk about it. I got a charming message from Wizard accusing me of poisoning the group against her, and not deserving to play my own character. Then I was blocked and everything. Oh no, the humanity. God forbid you can't play your character how another player wants to play you. Just because another player wants to do some roleplay backseating and you're not playing your character how they want you. That is really dumb. That is extremely dumb. Listen, if they want to make their own bard character, why not just make their own bard character? They can have their own similarities and a lot of similar things to your character, but take the story in a different way. Instead of calling him Alfie, that could be, I don't know, Elfay, I don't know, some sort of other parody name. But this is literally all stemming from the player being so fixated, so determined to want to roleplay your character better. It just doesn't make sense to me, man. Like, if you think you could roleplay somebody's character better, then first of all, that's weird because that's like trying to make roleplay competitive. Roleplay should not be competitive. Roleplay, like, what is this? Like some sort of like a tier system where we have like a rank system of who can play Alfie best? It's just dumb. Like, what the hell are we talking about here? We're putting on who can roleplay someone better as a fictional character in a TTRPG. Like, it doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters in the slightest. This wizard plays for some reason is on something, but they're on something for no reason whatsoever. I bet you they got in a huge fight with the DM, and that's probably why the DM doesn't want them at the table, and why they kind of gave the character a coup de grace in such a grim way. Probably they said something extremely bitter to the DM, which really pissed the DM off. Or maybe the DM is just vindictive. Who knows? Let's find out. We finished the campaign, vanquished all the new foes, and enjoyed that level 20 experience. But it was a sad end to a friendship with a wizard, and it seemed to come out of nowhere. Just this weekend, I found out why DM was so angry. Druid, DM, and I were part of a group starting a new Vampire the Masquerade game. There were people we hadn't played with before, and the campaign would be more mature. So we had an in-depth session 0 to make sure we knew that everyone was comfortable with, establishing tone, etc. DM went into long, explicit detail about the fact that people could not play other people's characters, that if someone missed a session, we would take over for them if necessary, and that it would only be to a level people were comfortable with. Afterwards, I was chatting with Druid. I mentioned it was weird he was so emphatic about that. Oh, that's because of that chat with Wizard after what she did to you. She went to explain that the 30-minute breakout room had revealed that Wizard had played Alfie in every single game she played when we weren't there. 15 years of playing that one character. We'd had no idea. So Wizard has basically been playing your character for 15 years in a separate game somewhere. 15 years, man. Why? Why this obsession with your character? Why even do this in the first place? You know what it's like? It's like loading up someone's save in a video game, and instead of choosing route A, you're going through route B because you think it's going to be a better ending or a better route. That's what it feels like. They're just playing your save, but they're choosing different options for your save. That's what it feels like. It feels weird. It feels really, really weird to have such a fixation on a character that is not even of your own making. At least make your own character. Why would you want to play somebody else's creation when you can just make your own? It's so easy. It's D&D. You can have a billion characters. I could think of a character right now. Here's what I think. I'm thinking of a character named Global Puddle. He is a grung druid of the Circle of Spores. There we go. And that's a character right there. You could have a character be rolled randomly on a table just to make a character. You can make your own character. Why anybody would ever want to just adopt someone's character and just choose a different route? I just don't get this. I don't get what this wizard is trying to get at. Why they have such a fixation on your character? After storming off in a huff, the next day she had sent DM a nearly 20-page document of her version of Alfie's development over that time. Development that included apologizing to her abusive family, abandoning all ties with her drow friends, and worst of all, detailed descriptions of multiple sexual assaults, including by the devil that she refused to deal with. Whoa, hold on, whoa, what? Apparently they taught her to give up her poor lifestyle choices. It makes me rage just thinking about it. She had basically tortured and Stefford-wived my character for more than a decade. So Wizard took your character, changed everything about your character, and then forced some sort of sexual assault on your character so that it would change your character in some way. I feel like that's like it's just a Wizard's fantasies just manifesting themselves. Druid said she'd never seen her husband that angry over any game-related incident ever. That the idea of assault being a life lesson made him boot Wizard permanently from any game he would ever run in the future. And that's why Wizard's character was killed off in the most shameful way possible. Honestly, kind of a goated husband move right there. DM didn't keep the doc, but he confirmed it was all true. Wizard had also included details of how Alfie had become fat and matronly as punishment for her vanity and was still under the devil's thrall. One of her 7 children was hinted at being his offspring. That she tried to sing or dance, she suffered horrendous pain. It was pure sadism. Wait, hold on. So this is just a torture fantasy that your wizard play just thought up for your character? And I thought this was a better writing? Torture fantasy? From the assault to the fact that your character, if they sing and dance, they go through pain? Okay. This is 100% wizard's weird fetish. This is a weird wizard that is doing some weird wizard things, and they're just doing weird fetish things with your character because I want to see your character suffer because they're getting off to the idea of your character suffering. I don't know what they have against your character, but suffering does not make character more interesting. Suffering for the sake of suffering is called a fetish. It's sadism. That's all it is. I don't have any way to ask Wizard what the hell was her problem. She never seemed to hate my character. There was no real life animosity between us. I talked with her for hours during COVID when she was stuck all alone, and I was the only one awake when she couldn't sleep from stress-related insomnia. So since I have no closure to this weird story, you guys get to read my long, rambling tale. Can't make sense of it, but sharing at least gets it out of my head. Well, it's getting out of your head, and you're doing just fine. Gotta get down because you want it all. It started out with a kiss. How did it end like this? It was only a kiss. Actually, it wasn't even a kiss. It was only a character. It was only a bard. It was only a bard that apparently Wizard decided to co-op with a weird sadomasochism storyline. That is the weirdest thing ever. Honestly, I'm flabbergasted. I am genuinely unironically flabbergasted. I am gaffed. I am a goofed, and this Wizard. I don't even have the words for it, man. This Wizard just clearly thought that their weird fetish, the weird sadist fanfiction, was better than your writing. Because of course they do. It sounds like somebody that has a huge ego that thinks my writing is better than everybody else's writing. Instead of just letting a character just be played by the player that made the character. Weird, cringe, but oh well. Honestly, I can't fault the DM for wanting to remove Wizard from this, especially after the horrendous reveal that the Wizard presented. Or the fact that they decided to coup de grace Wizard in such a crass way. If I had a player that told me they were playing a role-playing somebody else's player character for this much and just started putting in this weird sadomasochist assault stuff as a character development, I probably wouldn't want to play as a character as well. That would make me feel uncomfortable around a player like that. Trauma for the sake of story is fine at some accounts, but trauma for the sake of trauma because you think it's better writing, that's not. It's literally just, it's masochism and sadism for the sake of that. Man, I feel like we just constantly going through weird fetish stories every time. Maybe just me. Maybe I'm just so fetish conscious and I think everything is a fetish. No, it's not me. It's the people who are wrong. The people who are wrong. I don't want to think there's some sort of a weird fetish and stuff, some sort of fixation, but it could be. It really very much could be. It could be that maybe this character gets off on the idea that this character goes through trauma. I mean, the fact that they think that assault is character development is already pretty rich of them as well. Like, that's a lot, dude. Anybody that thinks assault is character development? No, it's not. It really isn't. Can be used in a story in a very meaningful way? I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is some way to do it tastefully. But this, the way the Wizard is doing it, it's not it. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.